Today, I'm going to warn you about the most common advice you can receive as a manager. That's also the most dangerous advice you can receive as a manager, and that is focus on the low-hanging fruits first. For those of you who don't know, this is a very classic prioritization matrix. I've used it. You can use it efficiently, but if you're not using it in a bound context with a very specific intent, you're going to smear efforts in every direction, and you're not going to actually accomplish anything that you want. Basically, it's a stretch of how much impact is something going to make, or how much impact we expect it to make, and how much effort does it take to do that, or how much effort do we expect it to make. We can't actually predict these things just by feeling. So this is a big trap, and we have to avoid getting into that, and let's understand why it's a trap. So the way this works is you say, okay, I have a bunch of things that are low effort, low impact. Those are low-hanging fruit. We do those first. Then I have things that are low impact, low effort. Those are lower priority projects. Things that are high effort, high impact, we have to schedule that work so it gets done. One of the traps, by the way, not the one that I have in mind, but just another trap is that must schedule always gets pushed back. Another way you can look at that is it's important but not urgent work. And then you end up here with your money pits, right? And so money pits are things that are high effort, low impact. Here's the problem. When you run this session, we end up saying, okay, let's get our priorities for the quarter, and we just spam information onto it. Here's a task, here's a task, here's a task. This doesn't work. So let's have a little conversation around why that doesn't work. Value is created when your teams can flow change from idea to value. Someone somewhere in the world or a group of people start off with an idea or a problem or a need, and that evolves through your company, and eventually it becomes value, right? That's the flow of change. Right? Somehow ideas are converted into money, and that's business. The problem is, right, the reality of how changes through your company has constraints. Here it looks like a flat funnel. We have an idea, becomes value, easy peasy. Of course, it doesn't work that way. Here's something much more realistic. We have a bottleneck, right? This is called a bottleneck because it constrains our process. We limit the throughput of the system right here. Right? So you have all these ideas, they're coming through, and you get a small trickle out the other side because there's a constraint there. And one of the problems here is if we say, oh, that's a low-hanging fruit, you can improve it, and now you're just adding more and more ideas here. You're just piling them in. And then over here on the other side, we could actually be improving right here, this step in the process, which is completely pointless because nothing is coming through. Although it could be an improvement of €1,000,000, there's nothing actually there to improve. It could be any number of things in your company that is the bottleneck. What's the key constraint in the conversion of ideas to value? So what is that bottleneck in this company, right? And it could be anything, right? It could be technology, it could be how we work together, it could be the code itself, it could be the product or the way we go to discover products. So we're throwing lots of ideas out there, but they're not connecting to the market. Or it could be the behaviors of team members, shirking accountability or not cooperating, or not working together on certain things, or misunderstanding what their jobs are. Many things can be wrong. Generally speaking, you're going to have one chief constraint at a time that blocks the conversion of ideas to value. So think about that, right? Let's say we said, well, I'm going to do the low-hanging fruit, and I'm going to do things that are high impact, high effort, and I'm going to work on those problems, but they weren't the bottleneck. So I'm going to end up improving over here and improving over here, and it actually didn't do anything for us, right? We made it worse because now there's so much congestion here. Things end up trickling through at a slow rate. And you'll see that often in teams where if you've ever had a team that you depend on to ship something, they pick up that piece of work and then they put it down, and then they pick it up again and put it back down, and doesn't seem to ever be done, but it's always kind of in progress. It's probably something like this, right? That side of the funnel is overloaded. You'd actually be better off to artificially constrain that part of the process to reduce waste and say, well, we're going to stop injecting ideas. We're going to reduce that swell. A lot of people find that politically inedible. They will not swallow that kind of advice, but you can see it. It's clear, right? You're jamming all these extra problems, extra unfinished work into this pipeline. Those ideas, those problems are not only rotting while they sit there, they're conflicting with everything else and missing the market opportunity for the whole group. The constraint wasn't touched, and we even improved all this extra capacity, all this extra quality downstream because it was a low-hanging fruit to just improve this step here. Well, it was easy to fix, right? We just have to buy that SaaS software. We just have to retrain everyone on something that didn't actually improve that flow. That's the point here, is when we think about this, is it a low-hanging fruit, must schedule, money pits, low priority? We can't be in the attitude of simply spamming all of our wishes for the quarter onto this board. We have to actually put in the things that are relevant to the bottleneck. If you don't contain that conversation and say everything we're going to do is relevant specifically to that bottleneck, you should not be putting that note on that board, right? Anything that's here or here is not only a waste of time, it's a distraction to the conversation. It introduces confusion, dilutes focus of your group, which is very precious because unfortunately, a lot of times we only have a few hours in the quarter to actually sit down and discuss these things as a group. So if you're wasting time in that, you're probably going to end up wasting a whole quarter, because presently a lot of companies are in this cycle where they think, okay, we're going to do a little bit of planning and a ton of doing. And so your opportunity to come back and change the plan is very constrained by your culture. Be careful about this and make sure you're talking about things that actually matter when you look for these quick, simple prioritization frameworks. If you don't know what your bottleneck is, stop. Don't use this and go figure out what's actually holding you back from shipping ideas to value faster. If you're not focused on that and you're not in agreement on top areas to focus on, you will not get an outcome that you're looking for. You will spread effort into little spaces where some of them are a complete waste and others made the situation worse. For those of you who want to know more about how to think about that and a whole bunch of other ways to identify and manage those kinds of processes and workflows, I highly, highly, highly recommend you get this book. It's old. The book cover looks like something that a software developer, a tech engineer would never want to read in a million years, but it was also the inspiration behind the Unicorn Project and Phoenix Project and books like this. I highly recommend you read this if you want to understand how constraints work and how you can work with constraints and break constraints and get ahead of these problems if you want things to move quickly. It's a very easy read. You can read it in about a day. So thank you, and I'll see you next time.